In today's growth story, we're chatting with Naveed Mughal, who heads up Accurox. Uh, you are one of our first members, you're one of our longest standing members. And since we've started working together in 2018, you've taken your firm from 50K turnover to over 300K. Let's be honest, there's one small acquisition in there. And your business is both an offshored office in Pakistan. You have a practice in Dubai, which is where you are at the moment with people. You also have a UK-based practice, and knowing you, there's probably a few other fingers in the pie that you haven't told me about yet. We'll confess at some point in the next year, because I know what you like. But you, particularly with the UK, you specialise in the construction trade, but you also offer outsourced and offshore services to UK firms. We were just totting up on our fingers how many people you now have, and apparently it's now 12, but you did have to readjust that after you recounted. So Naveed, I've learned so much working with you. We've now worked together for 3.5 years. It's great to have you with us. And I know you're going to be an inspiration to many people on this call. Do you want to give us a quick potted history of your firm, such as what prompted you to start it?
So I think my journey is not any different to some of the other accountants in the field, where I was working for a firm, wanted to become a partner, and nobody wanted to give partnership for free. So there was always an equity involved, some sort of loan, or you're not doing enough, you need to prove yourself a bit more. So came to a point where I decided that perhaps better to start my own practice. And I was kind of pushed in that direction. The practice I was with, the two directors fell off massively, and they decided to literally walk away from each other and close the practice basically. And I just took a decision to say, okay, I'm not gonna look for another job, but to start a practice of our own. Bit of a history on that as well. We prior to me starting my own practice, I was involved with an umbrella company. So we had a good influx of contractor accountants, contractor accounting clients. However, it was a time when IR35 was coming into play. So even though we were starting from scratch, we weren't really starting from the business. Starting was new. I was literally leaving my full-time employment to focus on business. An umbrella company gave us that additional security when we were in terms of transitioning from employment to business, running a business. However, within a year, we lost all of that umbrella clients basically because of IR35. So we had to then diversify ourselves and focus on small business rather than just contractor accounting.
Yes, I remember when we met at Accountex, you talked to me about that yes, you had this umbrella business, and yes, it meant that you picked up those limited companies from there, but you could see this massive churn coming with IR35. And your biggest challenge, you thought, when you set up, when you came to speak to me, was how was I going to find these clients? And I know for you, one of the reasons you set up the practice was, of course, because you thought you could do a better job. But also for you, it's not about building a successful business. I know it is, but for you, there's a really important desire to build a legacy, to create profit in the business so you can give back to communities in the UK and Pakistan. But it's also about, within your culture, there's a role model that says you're going to have multiple businesses, work really long hours, never see your family. And I know that's a mold you wanted to break.
Yes, so I think when I first moved to UK, it was a big change. I wasn't brought up in UK, so I moved to UK when I was 17, basically. So whilst dealing with other practices, in my travels back to Pakistan, where our offshore office is, I could see the huge disparity between the rich and the poor and everything else. So this legacy always stayed with us, and there was an element of saying, okay, we need to give back to the communities we have involved with. So in my spare time, I'm head of a disaster relief charity. I oversee disaster relief operations across the world, basically. And it just kind of brought home that more can be done at individual levels when it comes to giving back to the communities, whether they are in UK or abroad. And that's one of the main motivation of setting up this business. I mean, 10% of all our income goes back to charity, basically.
Mm-hmm. And most people don't know that about you, is actually this. Yes, of course I know you're entrepreneurial. Yes, of course I know you, like, at various times you turn around to me and go, I want to be a top 50 firm within, say, a small amount of years, and I go, yeah, right, and then we have a conversation. But What decisions did you make that truly accelerated your growth after the last 3.5 years?
I think one thing which is very unique about our firm, most practices run for a couple of years before they set up an offshore operations. Whereas in my practice, we were an offshore business even before I had my first client, basically. Uh, and that really accelerated the growth because I didn't have to worry about day-to-day running of the practice. I didn't have to worry about producing accounts, self-assessments, doing the marketing, getting onboarding done, and everything else. And it was almost like an investment. It took us 3 years to come to the point where we are, where all that time I've invested in an offshore team is paying off, basically. And that's been a very unique journey for us, which normally practices take some time to adopt. However, in our case, we went the opposite way. So I had my first accountant hired overseas, working from home, even before I went out to start marketing, basically. And then when we came back, he really grew with us over the course of the last 3-4 years.
So I know one of the things that was sort of a light bulb moment for you was when you were speaking with other club members and you're getting coached on your fees. What was it that you realized you'd been doing with your pricing that you needed to change very quickly?
So I adopted to this mentality because I am offshoring all my work. So just to be clear, we offshore everything. So this is your accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, so all sort of compliance work gets done out of Pakistan office. And I got to this mindset that because I have an offshore team, I can charge cheaply. And it was just mean that we were giving a lot more out for free, basically. And that's I think about 6 months into the club, I had this pricing strategy call with Heather. And at that time, I realized that I was selling myself too cheaply. Just to give you an example, we were doing all the full year end accounting for 150 to 200,000 pound business with VAT, bookkeeping, zero subscription for like £75 a month. And that was just draining. We were growing, but but I couldn't see the numbers growing as quickly as I wanted. And that pricing call really changed the way we worked and really changed the way we communicated our value to the clients. So prior to that, I think it was more about confidence, trying to understand, our own strengths. It took us a lot of time to understand our own strengths, basically. And when we understood our strengths, we realized that we can actually communicate that value back to the clients and make them understand that the price we are charging is still very competitive, is still very client-centric, and they will get the most out of it, basically.
Because I remember one of the things you did very early on, because you were really worried about winning clients, because that was the main reason you came to me, is I need to win these clients. And I remember our initial, the first 3 months you got a reprice, but you joined BNI, and I know that you took a very strategic decision, didn't you, about providing that red carpet service for anyone referred to by BNI members, to the point where your Pakistani team were told if this was a referral from BNI, and that nothing was too much trouble. Because it's only now that you're probably going to start to move a little bit away from BNI. How did that impact and accelerate your growth?
So it's a bit of a long story. So I met this very, very successful entrepreneur in Kent. And I was presenting his business plan. He was a friend of a friend, basically. And he said to me, yes, very good, looks very nice, everything is great. Have you ever sold anything? And I said to him, actually, no, I've never really sold anything. I've always been given leads and I've converted them. I've never really went out to look for a client myself. And that was a huge change. And he said to me, he said, the day you sign up your first clients, come and speak to me and I'll listen to your business plan. And that was almost like a challenge I took on to say, okay, I need to go out and sell. Funnily, that conversation was quite close to Accountex, and I met Heather at Accountex. But at the same time, I was looking from my previous experience, all I knew that the previous partners in the practice I was with, they were in BNI. So I knew about BNI even before I started my practice. So it was a case of then finding local chapters of BNI in Kent, which could be quite hard because the accountancy goes quite quickly. I decided to join a local BNI chapter. It wasn't really local to me, but where I live, but it was local enough to an hour's commute, basically. So joining the BNI, I realized in my own experience that when people join BNI or people go to networking events, they just sound too busy. They just sound so unavailable. They just sound so not interested. They just be there because they want to be. They have to be there, not that they want to be there. So I realized that for me to extract get the maximum value out of it, I would have to be available. I'll have to show people that I'm interested. I have to show people that I care. And I have to show people that I'm happy to deal with micro entities. I wasn't really running for big businesses. And that really changed the perception we had as an accountant within that BNI group and within the networking group or other circle I've created. And that means that when every time I met people or I did one-to-one with them, they knew that we will be available to help them as well as their friends and families and colleagues with their accountancy needs. And that strategy really paid off over the course of last 3 years, especially the year one. I mean, we end up signing close to £60,000 of business from BNI. And that's quite a big going within BNI as well. So I think it go back to that call I had with Heather and understanding my own business a bit better. I knew that I am thin in terms of manpower in UK, so I cannot run after the big advisory clients because soon I will run out of time and space. Second, it would impact the profitability of the business, so I would have to find cash flow far sooner than I wanted to. And the third thing, of course, would be is that if I am not going to give an A-class service to these clients, chances are they're not going to refer clients back to us. So these mixture of these three things really helped us. And then we niched our firm as a construction firm because construction clients normally can be quite price sensitive. Whereas with Pakistan office, we were able to, bypass that price sensitivities with the view that we can scale the firm at pace without having to worry about, cash flow every month or finding the next best person to employ in UK. And that's the strategy has been for almost, we kept this strategy on for almost 2 years. And now we are moving away from that strategy basically slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll come on to sort of one of those things. But what's stopped your growth? Because 3.5 years to go from 50k to nearly 350k now in turnover is good going in anybody's language or book. So, but I know it hasn't been a straight line. I know it's been up and then down and then up and then down. So what stuff has stopped your growth with the benefit of hindsight?
Well, I got used to employing cheap labor, not in a bad way, not in a way that my team is underpaid in any way. They are best paid, they get holidays and everything else, but I got used to employing people in Pakistan and other areas where I was able to employ chartered accountants, ACCA qualified accountants at a nominal price. And when it came to finding the similar sort of people with similar work ethics, sometimes I was struggling. So what happened is, and this coincided with our acquisition in Dubai. So in the middle of pandemic, I had an opportunity to acquire a practice in Dubai, and we acquired that practice basically. And that's where I am over the last. This week I'll be in Dubai, back in UK next week basically. So issue there was that I then decided to run for the local council elections. So stood as a local councillor in the last by-elections. And that really put too much pressure on me. I didn't have extra support in UK. I decided to run too fast. I didn't appreciate that the business is not the business I originally signed up to. I was, and I'm still to a point of contact for 100% of the clients. So even if they needed the UTR, they called me or it pinged my emails. However, for the last 6 months, we have now streamlined our business in much more in a way which will help us grow to the next phase. And the biggest thing is in there was that trying to do too much was never the right policy. Sometimes you have to just stay back, look at what you have achieved, and appreciate what you have achieved. I think I was when it came down to I was running too fast basically, And I think middle of July last year, it came to a point where middle of July this year, it came to a point where I said, okay, we're not going to sign up any new clients, and we're just going to take it easy for the next 6 months, and streamline our operations and our businesses. And to be honest, it's been a huge learning curve for the last 6 months, but we are in a much better place as a business.
And I know there's one thing that, as you alluded it to it, you're culturally, there's very much a how little can we spend on this? How can we ask for a discount? There's a very cultural kind of way. And I know one of the things that you've had to do is learn to invest and pay for quality. I know that's one of the things. I remember a conversation, you went, I'm on centre. And I'm like, well, why haven't you got one license then? That's not the right way to use it. And I know there's been moments where I've metaphorically hit you over the head and gone, why?
Yeah, I think as we were adopting technology, so we probably was a practice 3 years ago where we were completely cloud-based, hosted desktops, Microsoft emails, Gmails, and avoid telephone systems across the board, basically. So to a point that my Pakistan team can be reached on a UK number. I can sit in Pakistan and make calls to UK without a problem. I'm in Dubai at the moment, and I can make calls to across the UK wherever I want it to be. And I've worked from a laptop for the last 3 years, so I was never really a physical practice. And it came to a point where sometimes we always looked for the shortcut in terms of the software and technology. And I've realized that that's probably not the best approach if you want to grow your practice. You sometimes feel the pinch. Sometimes it is a dent on a cash flow every month. However, in the long run, it pays off. And we had to adjust that mentality, or I had to adjust that mentality that no, every team member needs their own logins. We need to be able to see where the jobs are, where the work in progress is, who's responsible for which task. And sometimes these things were not streamlined in our business.
I know. And now a lot of our members look to you as the role model in terms of process efficiency, streamlining checklists. So I know, and I think, you're quite open with me, Naveed, and thank you for sharing this with other people, is we often forget that running a business is a very lonely place, particularly when you're impatient, entrepreneurial, you've got a desire to push things forward. And I know particularly over last summer, as you just said, you took on too much. And it's just one of the times you struggle with mental health. What are the lessons you've learned to stay mentally and physically healthy?
So I think it was middle of pandemic. We have never seen anything like this in our lifetimes anyway. So in the middle of pandemic, I realized that what I'm trying to do, I need to do something different. So it wasn't the system and the process and the people and technology who's going to grow my business. It was myself and my mental health and my physical health is going to be able to help to grow. So if I can't give 100% to my business, that simply means that is going to have a knock-on impact on everything we are trying to achieve over the next 5 or 10 years, basically. And I appreciated that you can't give 100% every day of the week. However, it's the marginal improvement, the concept of the marginal improvement came into my life far better. So now I don't try to do too much every day. I try to do a little bit every day. And that's been a huge change. I don't look at every software and say, oh, we need this in our system, in our business. I say, okay, let's bring it on, test it before we actually decide to go ahead with it. And there are 3 things which I changed in myself. So one, I changed my eating habits massively. I don't eat the way I used to eat. I lost a lot of weight last year. I've put on some, but then is that something?
Who hasn't? Let's just gloss over that one.
Exactly. But at the same time, I made sure that I'm physically a lot more active as well. So if I'm not going for a run every day, I'll probably go for a walk 10, 15 minutes. If I'm not walking every day, then I'll make sure that I work out at home. And the simple things, learn to say no. I have now come to a point where I am actually saying no to people and no to clients as well. I don't unnecessarily burden myself with client deadlines or client pressure or even peer pressure. I think sometimes social media can be, we all know about it, that social media can get the negative image, basically, that everyone's doing too well, why am I lagging behind? And I'm guilty of that. I looked at LinkedIn every day where accountants talk about how best their practice is and how much they have grown and how many followers they have on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, I have got none of those. But I had to appreciate that, look, that's just not us. I just have to say, look, that's just not us. We will never be that people. And you have to just accept that.
Yeah, and
you're happy with what you have.
yeah, what we have to remember is you and I know that social media, you're just seeing somebody's edited highlights. You're seeing their highlights reel. You're not actually seeing the day-to-day stuff that goes on. I happen to know you also had a very good club growth specialist on speed dial.
Yeah, yeah. Don't know who she is.
Yeah, but she's good at telling you you're being an idiot, isn't she?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, AMC has been really fruitful. As I remember, I say to a lot of people, I invest, and I'll be very honest, about 10 to 15,000 pounds a year in personal development, and that's probably the best investment I have done over the last 3 years. So AMC has been one of them. I do attend paid courses outside of AMC if I have to. If I find something that I need to upskill myself or learn something, then I'll be more than happy to invest in that personal development. And there are some other individuals outside AMC as well I've spoken to. However, appreciating that the personal development is a long-term journey. It's not a 1-year journey. It's not a 2-year journey. It's not a 3-year journey. It's a lifetime choice, basically, has changed our business massively. And that's the journey I have taken and adopted to. And when I say to some of my colleagues now, some of the younger ones that, or even my team members, that I spend that much money, they get surprised. They'll be like, what are you talking about? But the truth is, that's probably the best money I have spent in a year-on-year basis, which has helped us grow as a business and helped me grow as a person.
Yeah, and one thing we don't shout about it in the club, and we as a club are very much a community, and I know that you've benefited from referrals from club members to you and vice versa, and we don't talk about that. We don't, because it's not what we, but there is quite a lot of business that goes to and from club members. We all help each other out. Now, I remember that one of the things you touched on was the pricing, and there's going to be a lot of people on this call that know they need to reprice and are just looking at it and go, whoa. By the way, I'm looking at you, Gareth, if you're still on the call. So how did you find that confidence to reprice, Naveed?
I think the coaching helped. So it all started with that one conversation. I had to get this mindset change that people are too price sensitive. I think in our mindset, we think people are too price sensitive. And we know thousands of examples of Apple and Tesco and Sainsbury's, where you just go pick up what you need to pick up, pay, and walk out, basically. So one thing which I had to learn in terms of pricing was get rid of this mindset that we will serve every single client. We are not going to serve every single client. And the second issue was that in terms of pricing is your sales pipeline good enough? I mean, I, as a business, more than happy to accommodate 6 to 7 referrals a month, basically. I don't go look out for 10, 20, 30 referrals because simply I know as a business, we cannot take care of them. And as long as I've got 5 to 7 leads to chase and to follow up, I am more than happy with our pricing strategy and everything else.
And I think there's a really important thing here that I want to pick up. It's about the mindset. And I know, having worked with you for 3.5 years, I think you deserve a medal for that, by the way. Or is it the other way around? As you choke on water, is you've really matured in your mindset. You're no longer that underdog who doesn't value themselves, that feels, I hope you're not about to die on me and choke.
Yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay.
You're okay. Yeah. So how did you stop being the underdog? Because you've very much matured into somebody who's got their what's it together, who knows who they are, who knows what they're doing, who's far more comfortable in your own skin as an accountancy owner than the chap who mentored Accountex. What made the difference?
I think it came back down to multiple things. But of course, coaching really helped. Second was understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your own practices. And the third, I didn't buy into this whole advisory thing from day one, because I always thought there would always be people in SME market who need service, who need an accountant, and we focused on that. And where we got the advisory clients, we were more than happy to deal with them. Don't get me wrong, we got clients, we charge £2,000 to £3,000 a month, basically. However, we don't have many of those clients. Second, we really focused on systems and operations to a point that, you know, if client misses something because they haven't followed our process, it's come to a point where I would simply turn around and say to the client that, sorry, this has happened because you didn't follow the process. Rather than deleting the whole process, trying to redo the whole thing, and putting yourself down to say, oh, that's because we did this and we did this and we did this. It doesn't mean we don't want to learn as an organization. All it means is we go back to the clients with a positive feedback to say, if you follow this process, you will get the results you're looking for. So these things I really had to learn over the last 3 years. It's been this continuous journey that you have to that you can't just look at what other people are doing and try to follow in that direction. It doesn't mean that I don't offer cash flow forecasting service. It doesn't mean that I don't do management accounts. It doesn't mean that we don't produce detailed data reports for our clients. It simply means we are comfortable in our skin, basically. I am not trying to prove to a world, anything. I still have an ambition to grow to a top 100 accountancy firm. So, we want to be top 100 accountancy firm eventually. I don't want to do a £500,000 firm and say, yeah, that's it, I'm happy. I want to grow a £5 million firm. If I can acquire 10 accountancy firms tomorrow, I'll acquire them. I am not afraid of it. But I'm happy to do it at a pace which is comfortable with us and comfortable with our team, basically.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you've got to get comfortable with your own skin. And I'm aware that we've got 2 minutes left. So if anybody's got a question for Naveed, if you want to put it in the chat box. But having been your coach, there's a really detailed one here. I'm just going to say, as your coach, it's been a delight and a privilege to work with you. And I know that the challenges for you to get to that 500,000 are managing your impatience. You know it, I know it. And I think the most entrepreneurial accountants always know it. And it's about that focusing. And when I work with the really entrepreneurial accountants, half my time is going, yeah, I know you want to get there. Let's talk about the right here and now. And it's the things, as you said, Naveed, doing that day to day. I know for you, the next big thing that's going to accelerate you forward is finding that qualified expertise in the UK that can start to take a client portfolio from you to free you up even more time. So we've got a question from Farida that says, I'm not quite sure what the fourth industrial revolution is, but I'm assuming this is, what is your growth model with AI and the technology changes? What are you doing? Because at the end of the day, your practice is based on a core of doing compliance really well. So how are you preparing yourself for those changes?
I think you need to. One thing I do believe that you cannot run a compliance-based practice in UK over the next 10 years. You will not be able to do it. So we have introduced right amount of technology in our practice. So when it comes to bookkeeping, we are a zero specialist practice. We don't take on clients on QuickBooks or anything else, and we make sure that every one of the clients is on Dext or Xavier or something who's sending us data. Second thing, I think there is a fine line between data processing and bookkeeping, and we have taken these small steps to actually eliminate or offshore all of the data processing stuff, which simply means when you're looking for a bookkeeper in UK, then you're then almost looking for a junior accountant, not a bookkeeper, because you if you are carrying on still looking for a bookkeeper, not a junior accountant, you are going to lose a lot of profit. And these things simply means we can stay ahead of curve when it comes to AI and technology. I don't think human interaction in any business can be wiped out. I think, you would still need an accountant. You would still speak to your accountant. You would still have regional dominance. You would still have top 4 accountancy firms or top 100 accountancy firms. It's just the way we deal with people, the processing would change over the next 10 years. And that's what we are ready for.
And I agree with Naveed. I think with what we're definitely seeing in the UK, and I think it's being replicated across the world, is the compliance burden, particularly on these small businesses, tiny micro businesses, going up rather than down. And yes, there's always going to be accounting software or bookkeeping companies powered by AI that says we can do it at a fraction of the cost, or you can do it yourself. And I think you have to make a choice. Are you going to play in that space? Or are you going to play in the space where people will pay money to have peace of mind? And if you're going to play in the space where people will pay money to have peace of mind, you've got to deliver the service on top of the compliance. It can't be a compliance factory. It's got to be seen as a responsive service that someone's there. And it's that mindset. If you think about it, here in the UK, we're going to have to do very shortly sole traders. So the tiny businesses will have to do 4 personal income tax returns, estimates across the year, and then a final statement. And I know, and Naveed knows that is, you can get them so far with doing a process. And I know Naveed, he's already getting his clients onto that kind of process, but it's the exceptions where the good accountancy firm owns its money. And it doesn't matter how powered by AI, and we've all discovered that AI is absolutely useless in a turbulent pandemic world, of which we're going to be for the next number of years, I think. It is about, AI is only as good as the data that goes in. And if you're focused on getting the right data in, and you've got people in the team, as you say, it's cloud bookkeeping, it's management by exception, it's no longer data processing. If you focus on that and get that right, everything else becomes easier. So there's a lovely question from Chetan here is, what's your current marketing strategy right now? Because I know it's transitioning a little, isn't it?
Yes. So we still, as a practice, rely on referrals from existing clients. And we have a clear reward system. So a lot of people say, why wait for referrals and everything else? The good thing we have within our business, we have a clear reward system for clients to refer us. And then we remind clients to say, please refer a business if this is working for you. Second, networking. So I have lucky to have developed a good network around me, whether it's IFA, mortgage advisors, other business owners, business coaches. BRI networking has really been useful for us. And now slowly we are transiting into SEO, Google pay-per-click, and creating content. So at that content, it's slowly paying off. So our website rankings in terms of the construction accounting industry in the local area is doing a lot well. So these are the 3 main marketing strategies. The 4th one, which is a big expensive one, is acquisitions. I am always in for an acquisition. Heather knows it, and I won't deny it. If I have to do £10 million of acquisitions, I'll do them. I'm not fussed about it.
Yeah.
But acquisition is a growth strategy we have as a practice, and I've openly discussed it. There is a strategy behind it. We have, and we and I am always speaking to accountants who are perhaps looking to sell or merge with us one way or another.
And I think Paul, I think it must be the air conditioning in Dubai that's killing you. But I think the really important thing is know the shape of your practice, but also know where you are within your growth cycle. So I know for Naveed, he's very much moving from, it can't be all about Naveed, which is why there's a movement into content SEO. The website is very, very SEO friendly. There's been a lot of work to support that. And it is about, and also you're at the size where, when you're 300K over, if you're not getting sort of half of your new leads, either recommendations from existing clients or existing clients wanting more, then there's a service problem within there. So Naveed, how can people get in touch with you? Do you want to put in the chat box? Particularly, they may want some help with getting some, say, tax returns done before the deadlines, because I know that you normally have a bit of capacity in your team to help out if people need that, or maybe they want an offshore bookkeeper. So in the in the chat box is Naveed. And I can tell you now, Naveed is just a really, really nice guy. Highly, highly recommend him both as a friend, but also as somebody that can help you. Now, if you're sitting here and going, actually, I'd like to consider doing, having some support as a coach, maybe go through a similar journey that Naveed has gone through, then I'm just going to put the next step for you would be to book a 15-minute call with Ian in my team. I'm just going to put that in the chat box just to let you know 7 people have joined us in the last 4 weeks. So we're pretty busy at the moment. There's a lot of accountants out there, but we'd love to hear from you. The first step is in that link, book a call with Ian in our team. And if we're right for you, then we can take it from there. But Naveed, this has been a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for your time. And as I said, if you want to get in touch with Naveed, so it's naveed@accurox.co.uk. Highly recommend him if you're wanting to take your first steps into outsourcing or offshoring. Is it about 5 of our members use you off and on now?
Yes, that's correct.
It's about 5 members. So we're doing something right. Jigna, I'm glad you found that useful. Naveed, go and find yourself some drink. I know you don't drink, so it's of the non-alcoholic type.
I didn't appreciate the weather change from UK to Dubai, and I came in into AC and drinking cold water. That's messed up my throat massively, basically.
Go and find something to liquidate your vocal cords and have some time with your young family, because I imagine are they jet lagged going up the wall, the youngsters?
They are better. They're a lot better. We had a crazy first week, but we are a lot better this week, basically.
Yeah.
So.
I will speak with you soon. And by the way, there's been a cake delivered to your office. You might like to, it's not from us, it's from the Accountants Recruiter, our sister company. You may like to get your sister-in-law to pick it up and enjoy it.
All right, that's great.
Thank you very much, Naveed. Thank you, everyone. Speak soon. Bye.